What's up, everybody? Fred Ricciani of TSC News here to present you guys with an exclusive interview with former WWE superstar JTG, aka Jason Paul, the author of the book, Damn! Why Did I Write This Book? Based off of his infamous tweet, Damn! Why did I pick up the phone? This is definitely a conversation you don't want to miss. We talk backstage politics. We talk heat. We talk the unfortunate luck of Alex Riley. We talk about Shad and all his antics. We talk about Hollywood. We talk about it all. So please check it out. If you would like to listen to this interview in audio form, maybe you want to download the podcast, maybe you want to stream it, just visit soundcloud.com/TSC News and you can listen to it on your SoundCloud app, or you can download it and listen to it on your music player, on your phone, MP3, tablet, whatever. We got you covered. If you've been here before, you know the deal. Please feel free to click the like button. Please feel free to share this interview with all your friends. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Please follow us on SoundCloud. Again, soundcloud.com/TSC News. You see all the links right there at Sports Courier, at Fred Ricciani, at TSC News on Instagram. If you'd like to support TSC News financially, please click the support button. We guarantee you all kinds of cool and fun perks. But in the meantime, please sit back, relax, and check out this conversation that'll make you say, Damn! I'm glad I listened to this interview. What's up, everybody? This is Fred Ricciani of TSC News. I have right here on the line a former WWE superstar, one half of one of the more popular tag teams in the last decade, and now he is an author, the author of Damn! Why Did I Write This Book? I'm talking to Jason Paul, aka former WWE star JTG. JTG, what's going on, man?
How you doing, Fred? Everything's great.
I'm doing all right. The weather here in the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, getting a lot better, so I'm in a bit of a better mood.
Okay, great. I'm over here on the West Coast, enjoying this Cali life.
You wrote, Damn! Why did I write this book? Based on your tweet when you got released from WWE last year, Damn! Why did I pick up the phone? JTG, why was this the right time to write a book?
Well, for the past couple of months, been doing some indie shows and talking to friends and family, and I would share stories with them, and I will all get the same reaction after I tell them the stories. You need to put this on paper. You got some great, hilarious stories, and I wanted to test my writing skills out, and I'm pretty badass.
Fair enough. Now, for those that haven't got a chance to order the book yet, it's only available for 99 cents, a full $9 cheaper than WWE Network. Can you give us kind of like a summary of what this short book is about?
Well, to put it like this, all the stories are focused around heat. And for anybody who doesn't know what heat is a very deadly four-letter word backstage in the wrestling world. Heat is like cooties for grown-ass men. Heat is like a dark cloud that follows a wrestler backstage after a personal conflict or with a bunch of other individuals backstage.
Okay, yeah. There's quite a bit written about the Heat. We're not going to give away too much of the book, although I would like to talk about some of those stories. But for those that don't know, and I don't think a lot of people do know this, which is weird because you were in WWE for what, 7-8 years? And I feel like for the most part, not a lot of people really got to know the man behind JTG. You got started in professional wrestling pretty young, and it wasn't too far long after that you got signed by WWE, right?
Yeah, I got signed when I was 21. I was down in OVW for when I turned 19, and at 21 I got signed.
Wow, I mean, so I guess let's go to the early days if you don't mind. Let's go to the early days of JTG. Who drew you into professional wrestling?
My mom. My mom was a big wrestling fan. My mom went to Madison Square Garden every month when it was WWF, when they ran at MSG. And, she instilled, every Saturday morning we would watch WWF on Saturday. And, of course, I turned into a big fan. I went from Macho Man, Hulk Hogan era. Those are my idols. And then it went from Bret the Hitman Hart, and I idolized him all the way till I was a teenager, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps.
Very cool. Now, when you started wrestling, who got you started as far as training wise?
Training rise. My first trainer was in North Carolina. I went there straight out of high school. His name was Gene. I forgot his last name. Legion. He was a Thunderfoot, and I pretty much got ripped off. I stayed there for 6 months. Went back home, and then from New York I went to Louisville, Kentucky. I took the Greyhound bus, and then I eventually moved to Memphis because it was closer and I had family there. I was trying to avoid moving to Louisville because that was a big culture shock for me. And then I went back home, started taking the bus again from New York to Louisville, Kentucky. Then I eventually moved to Louisville, Kentucky to pursue this full time.
And you got to work with a mutual friend of ours, Rip Rogers. And if you guys have never met Rip Rogers before, he's one of a kind. And I earlier, before doing this interview, asked people to submit some questions via Twitter, and I figure if we're talking about OVW right now, I might as well bring this up. Rip asked me, can you ask JTG about the special morning classes we had at OVW, where it was usually JTG, Santino, Armando Estrada, Serena, and Mondo going full speed?
Oh, yeah. I remember waking up early and going to class, and Rip laid it in on us. It was just, usually when you have a big class, you have some time to rest and watch the other trainees do their spots and do their training exercises. In this class, there was only a few of us. There's probably like 8 of us, and we were just going. But that class was for talent who really, really wanted it, and a majority of everybody in that class made it to the WWE.
Yeah, OVW put out a lot of different people. Now, this was, correct me if I'm wrong, 2005, 2006-ish, right, when you were in OVW?
Yes.
So that was towards kind of the end of OVW's run with WWE as a developmental territory. And then eventually they kind of transitioned to FCW, which later was shut down, and now, of course, it's known as WWE NXT. As a guy that was there for a while, obviously you got out of OVW in 2006, 2007, got on the main roster, but just, I guess maybe from the outside looking in, what were the major differences you saw between OVW and then FCW, which at the time kind of received a lot of criticism?
What was the difference between
OVW and FCW as far as putting out the amount of talent? I mean, you look at OVW with a very limited budget, with very limited resources. I mean, they put out obviously Cryme Tyme. I mean, a ton of other guys. Of course, John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get to FCW, and while they had some talent out there, you make the argument that the talent wasn't as strong or as well trained as it was in years past under Danny Davis and Jim Cornette.
Yes. I would say the big difference is, like, again, I have to go back to Rip Rogers. Rip Rogers has his own style of training, and he does it the old school way. He doesn't give, can I curse on here?
Yeah, go ahead. Do what you want.
He doesn't give a shit about the WWE style. He makes you learn his style first, and then when you get called up, you're already so trained to Rip that you can just adjust to any style. The old school style, learning how to tell a story, facials, how to cut a promo, and he just gives you the basic fundamentals to tell a story in the ring.
Yeah, definitely an underrated trainer in my opinion. I mean, not a guy that's very corporate, but you know what? Rip Rogers is definitely going to teach you how to handle the business. Man, now when you got on the main roster, you were 21. Well, you got signed by WWE when you were 21 years old. I'm guessing around 22, 23, you were on the main roster?
No, I was on the main roster when I was 21.
Okay, wow.
I didn't have that much time to prepare to get on the road. I just had to get the hang of things really quick. I got signed in, I believe it was June of 2006, and then in September of 2006, I made my debut at the Staples Center.
Wow. For a guy that's pretty much a lifelong wrestling fan, you're 21 years old. That's around the time when people are still in college, partying, doing their thing, go to parties, juggling class, finals. You're here on the main roster around guys like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Vince freaking McMahon. I mean, how overwhelming was that the first few months being in WWE?
It was very overwhelming. It was very mind-blowing, and I had to mature very quick. I had a lot of brothers that took me under their wing when I got up there. Of course, Shad, he's been my brother for the past decade, my big brother. And also Armando Estrada took me under his wing, Elijah Burke. Those were all close friends, and, they kept an eye on me and make sure I didn't do too many dumb mistakes. Of course, I was bound to make dumb mistakes at 21, But there could have been a lot more made if it wasn't for those three.
And God bless your tag team partner, Shad Gaspard. He seems like a cool dude, but I got a chance to read a little bit of your book. Haven't gone through the whole thing yet. And it seems like part of the book should be called How Shad Got Me Heat. And while Shad seems like a great friend, he also seems like a guy that, with all due respect to him, at times could have been a bit of a pain in the ass. How's your relationship with Shad these days? And is he still the same guy that we read about in the book, or has he kind of smartened up a little bit when it comes to talking to people?
Well, those stories were 8 years ago, so he's definitely not the same person. He's definitely a lot more mature. Back then, Shad was all about fun and having a good time. Even at work, trying to be professional. He's all about having a good time and having fun. So, yeah, I believe throughout the years, he definitely changed his attitude.
Okay.
He's more professional because he's in Hollywood now. He's getting work, so he definitely had to change his persona, his image of his outlook on life.
You have a lot of funny stories in the book. Is there one that's not in the book that you could tell us, just like to give people kind of like an example?
One story to give you a little tease. Shad he's a jokester. He loves to have fun, even with people he doesn't know. He likes to try to make them crack a smile, but sometimes it could be a little inappropriate. For example, we did a meet and greet, and we met some children, and then there was one particular lady with her baby, and I picked her up. I took a picture with her. Everything was good, and then Shad picked the baby up, and the baby started crying, and he looked at the baby and he looked at the mother, and he gave the baby back to the mother and said, "Ma'am, your baby's a racist," and starts laughing, and everyone, the WWE rep that was doing the meet and greet with us, like everyone was just looking at each other like very uncomfortable and awkward, and he kind of laughed it off. He was like, "That's not funny." Yeah, I don't know what a good joke is. Like that's the type of situation that we got ourselves in.
Yeah, and all things considered, I mean, I say that about Shad, but at the end of the day, he seems like a very nice guy, and one that's not really mean-spirited. He doesn't come off mean-spirited at all. Just a guy that, like you said, kind of having fun. And unfortunately, in the hypersensitive world of pro wrestling, or at least in WWE, can rub some people the wrong way.
Oh, definitely. He's still all about having fun. Mm-hmm. If you're looking to go to a party, look at a club, Chad is the guy. He's the party man.
You were in WWE for a long time, right? Was it 7 years, 8 years?
8 years.
Wow, 8 years in WWE. Cryme Tyme started out really, really hot. A lot of people thought you were going to get the tag titles. Didn't end up working out. You guys got released when you got into that whole thing with Kane and Murdoch. Luckily, you were brought back. You were hot for a little while. And there was a short time where you guys were affiliated with John Cena. Again, earlier today I asked people to submit some questions. And a lot of people were wondering why they never moved forward with the John Cena stable with yourself, Shad, of course, JTG. I look at it now. And one of the problems I have with WWE, and a lot of people seem to have, is that there's a lot of baby faces, but the baby faces never have any friends. Whereas back in the day, Hulk Hogan had Macho Man, Randy Savage, and vice versa, and Ric Flair had Ricky Steamboat when he was a baby face, and you have John Cena and he gets attacked, he gets beat up, and nobody comes out to save him. It kind of seems unrealistic these days in 2015.
Sometimes the story reflects real life.
Oh, okay. So would you say real life is the reason why JTG and Shad weren't affiliated with Cena? Not too far along, I think in 2008, 2009?
No, we were affiliated with Cena for a short time, and then I believe he got hurt. I can't remember. I'm trying to remember. It was a while ago. But all of a sudden, I just remember that we weren't with him anymore. It just stopped abruptly. It was like, okay, are we coming out with you? Like, nope, we're good. I'm good. I'm like, okay, are we doing? Like, nope, I'm good. It just stopped abruptly. I had no idea what happened.
Yeah, and you guys were cool too. At the time, like Cena's been popular for the last decade, but I just feel like with Cryme Tyme with him, it kind of gave him a new edge. And then when he came back, it was just like, okay, he's just the hustle, loyalty, and respect dude. But all right,
yeah.
So how'd you maintain your sanity in WWE? Again, I don't want to give away too much of the book, but there's just an unbelievable amount of pettiness that you write about that goes on backstage in WWE, at least in the mid-2000s. How the hell did you maintain your sanity for all these years?
I have to compare it to battered wife syndrome. You love your husband so much, you're just in love but he he abuses you mentally, not even physically, just mentally, and you just go through it because you just love it. I love wrestling, man. I was in love with it, and I was willing to go through it because I had a vision, and that vision was to one day, be a top guy, have some titles under my belt, and that never happened. And then one day I stopped throwing darts at the board to see what will work, and I just said fuck it. After a while, after trying so much, after trying so hard, sometimes you just throw in the towel.
And there was a time when you were home for a really, really long while. I mean, during that time, were you just collecting a check? Were you pitching ideas? And you weren't the only one. I mean, Kurt Hawkins was home for a while. Ezekiel Jackson, who's now Big Rick in Lucha Underground. When you guys are home, is it just the reality of the situation? Whatever, I'm just gonna chill and collect my paycheck, or are you actively trying to get their attention while you're home?
Well, when I got home, before I got sent home, I was throwing a bunch of ideas, and some of the ideas I saw in other talent. And that's like one of the worst feelings in the world, to get your intellectual property stolen. It wasn't the exact same idea, but it was damn near pretty close. And after that happens a couple of times, you're just like, you know what, I don't want to submit no more ideas because it's obviously good, but not good enough for me. So when I was home for almost a year, I didn't submit any ideas.
Man, yeah, I think after a while they just kind of beat it out of you. And Kurt Hawkins did a few interviews after he was released by WWE. I'm paraphrasing this quote here, but he pretty much said that when Zack Ryder, for lack of a better term, got buried, despite getting himself over online on YouTube, that a lot of guys at his level and your level kind of lost faith in the company. Would you say that's accurate?
It's exactly accurate. I said that in an interview not too long ago. I said that put a black eye on the morale in the locker room. Like, how could somebody whose name is being chanted in Madison Square Garden, throughout the arena, in the train stations, this guy is over. This was at Survivor Series, and they wanted him in the U.S. title match, and they got another superstar. But this guy obviously deserved the match at WrestleMania that year, and he pretty much got buried. And this guy tried everything. He got himself over, but because politics and because of the four-letter word, he didn't get what he deserved.
Man, and you're a guy that grew up not only in the 80s, but on the Monday Night Wars. And I'm sure throughout your time in WWE, you hear about all the politics in WCW. You watch the DVDs, you watch the network special. WCW. WWE's nothing like WCW and all the politics. But from reading your book and just reading on the interviews, it seems like there were a hell of a lot of politics in WWE as well. And still are.
Oh, yeah, it still are. And I don't know if it's going to change. It's just a cycle. It's just it's a system there that they have in place, and I don't see it ever going another way.
So when you look back, I mean, you wrote this book. Obviously, there were times where you got heat. A lot of times for really, really petty stuff. I mean, massage tables and bizarre things like that, or some things your friend said, or a magazine editor writing a little too much about you. For a guy that's coming into WWE that's listening to this right now, is there any advice that you could give them, or is it just a matter of go with the flow and walk on eggshells?
In the book, I put in there at the end of the book the Heat Commandments. So for any inspiring wrestlers, this is a must read, and you must read and study those Heat Commandments. I don't want to give it away.
True. Now, Cryme Tyme for a while though was well pushed before you guys broke up. Was pretty over. Were there any times where you guys were told, "Hey, you're getting the tag titles," and then for whatever reason it changed?
Yes, I was told on two occasions. Shad and I were told we were going to get the tag titles. The first time that we got screwed, I put that in the book, and then the second time, that's going to be in part 2. Damn, why did I write this book too?
Okay. Now, with all those skits, I mean, a lot of them were pretty damn funny. I understand Cryme Tyme was your idea. Were the vignettes that built up to your guys' debut, was that also your idea?
Well, I'm gonna break up the Cryme Tyme, who idea was it? Like the look and the image, I have to give credit to Abraham Washington. That was my original tag team partner. We did the gimmick together back in OVW. We were called Gang Stars. And he called me one day and asked me to team up with me, and we could do this gimmick where, you know, we'll wear bulletproof vests, we'll rock Timbs, we'll wear jeans and Tommy Hilfiger boxes, grills, and everything. And I was kind of hesitant, you know, like it's a little bit too stereotypical. He's like, come on, man, we're gonna stand out from the rest of our class, and the next amateur show we're gonna blow the roof off. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. And like how he saw it, we damn well did blow the roof off, and then we were pretty hot for a while, and then he had some personal issues, and he couldn't attend OVW anymore, so I was kind of left on my own, and then that's when Paul Heyman put Shad and I together, and Shad and I came up with the characters for Cryme Tyme. So I got the look from Abraham Washington, and the characters was Shad and I's idea.
And how much input did you guys have in your vignettes? I recall definitely a couple funny ones where he sold a bum painting to Ron Simmons when he put the hat on William Regal, and William Regal started getting down. Was that the WWE creative team, or was that just you guys coming up with ideas and saying, "Hey, this would be funny"?
That was Shad and I coming up with ideas being funny, and the majority of the songs, the sing-along, Shad came up with.
Like the money, yeah.
Money, yeah. Shad came up with that. The song at SummerSlam with William Regal, Shad came up with that. We had a few.
So.
What you saying?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, a majority of those little sing-alongs Shad came up with. That's what I was gonna say.
It sounded like you guys had a decent amount of creative input the first few years you were there, and then obviously that stopped. Why was that?
That all stopped. And that's what got us over. Us having creative liberty and just having fun and letting us showcase our personality and character. And then after that, they just started getting more stick by the script, and that's when it wasn't so much fun anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed guys that worked in the mid 2000s, WWE around the time you guys were around. I mean, Court Bauer, Andrew Goldstein, a few of those guys who all said at the time Vince was pretty accessible, at least in terms of the creative team. If you wanted to pitch him ideas or something, say, you know, JTG pitches a Andrew Goldstein idea, he pitches it to Vince, you could talk to Vince one-on-one. From what I understand now, the writing team's so big, there's so many different guys. They have a road team, they have a home team, that it's almost impossible to get one-on-one time with Vince, whether you're a wrestler or a writer.
From the last time I was there, I don't think it was that hard to get in contact with. Vince is always accessible. Okay. He's pretty much just knock on his door. But since Hunt is there now and he's kind of in charge, you might get heat for overstepping Hunter before you get to Vince. You know?
Yeah. That makes sense. Any big differences you've seen working under Hunter and then previously working under John Laurinaitis, who was the previous head of talent relations?
My opinion, I preferred working under John Laurinaitis. He was straightforward. You know, he didn't beat around the bush, and he was more accessible.
Okay, that's interesting because he did get a lot of flack at the time when he was in charge, but just from the outside looking in, from some people I talked to, it always kind of seemed like he was the fall guy. You know what I mean? Like whatever Vince would do or whatever decision Vince would make, he'd kind of be the bad guy. And I guess in that kind of role, it's, you know, sometimes you usually are going to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Now with Triple H, it's interesting because you had that tweet a few years back about WrestleMania payouts, and you talk about this a little bit in the book. And again, I don't want to spoil the book, but you were one of the guys that really just spoke out. You weren't happy with your compensation. I'm sure a lot of your colleagues were unhappy as well. And you took action and did something about it. What was the backstage reaction when you put out that tweet saying you just had enough of this?
Oh, man, it was very tense. You know, I was at Raw watching the show doing these tweets. And, you know, usually a talent, if they're going to speak out, they usually do it at home or Yeah, I did it right there in the lines then, because I wanted to get Hunter's attention because you know like in the book you have to read the book and you'll find out exactly why I did it. I felt disrespected, so you know I wanted my voice to be heard.
All right, and with all due respect to, of course, the top stars of WWE of the last decade, and look, there's always going to be some top stars that are a little particular, picky about this, that, the other thing, whatever. But just from reading a little bit of your book, it seems like a lot of them could have been a lot more. I don't know if accommodating is the right word, but helpful towards younger talent. You know, especially because say a guy like JTG, if you got over to a top level, or a Hawkins or Zack Ryder, whomever. That's another person, a guy like John Cena or Shawn Michaels, whoever, can make money with. Do you feel like the top talent in WWE couldn't be more helpful?
It could definitely be more helpful, but you know they created an environment there. There's a system where it's just cutthroat. You know the top guys want to stay on the top, and between the middle tier guys, they're the ones that work together and don't mind putting each other over. It's kind of weird.
I got you. Is that also why we see a lot of even Steven booking these days, or is that just a change in philosophy with Vince? I mean, it's weird. A few years back, I mean, as recently as I think like 08, 09, you know, there were mid card guys that were relatively protected, and nowadays, if you're not a top guy, you really kind of don't stand out because every week Dolph Ziggler's losing to Sheamus, then Sheamus beats Dolph Ziggler, and vice versa, and it seems like nobody gets over in that middle level.
I saw an interesting tweet that described that. Someone said, if you're not a top guy, you're all jobbers.
I mean, I don't want to say that's a perception right now, but it's certainly close to that. I mean, why is that? I mean, you saw a change in philosophy as far as it being more overly scripted, and during your time there, it became more about even Steven. As a wrestler that's been backstage there, do you have any reasonable explanation for that?
Man, I have to say politics. I keep seeing the same, when I do watch wrestling, I don't watch it as much, but I keep seeing the same faces over and over and over again. And then a sprinkle, maybe one or two new stars on TV, on Raw. Mm-hmm. And I all I can say is out of heat of politics. If someone doesn't like you backstage, your TV time could be cut just like that. It could be all because you looked at them the wrong way.
Or if you have certain merchandise that's about to come out, you could lose that too.
Exactly.
Oh, man. I do ask you this, and I hope it's not too obscure of a question. We're talking about the book, we're talking about heat and everything. Alex Riley, he's had a hell of a run in NXT, had some really good promos, yeah, solid in the ring, still has a great look, and every time it gets up to him, doing something special, he gets his ass kicked by Kevin Owens. Then he asks for a rematch, gets his ass kicked by Kevin Owens again. And I saw a tweet you put out a couple months back where you really put him over, said he's doing a great job. I thought the same thing. And you said, you said, well, he got in trouble with the wrong guys, and here's a hint, you can't see him. so why does poor Alex Riley constantly get humiliated? I mean, it seems like a guy that you'd want on your roster. I mean, he has the look that they want. He can talk very well. Can you shed some light on that a little bit without, I guess, getting him or anybody else in trouble?
Man, when I first saw Alex Riley, when I saw him in NXT, I knew automatically, they're gonna love him. This guy is the next. He could be a champ. This guy is great on the mic. We had promo classes, and at the time, Miz was the champion. And he went toe-to-toe with Miz on a promo and was damn near as good or better than Miz on the mic. And that just confirmed to me, like, oh, this guy's going to be a future champ one day. He's great on the mic. He could sell himself, and he could sell a match. And after unfortunate events on the road that had nothing to do with being at the arena, stuff that happens on the road, like going to a bar or, going to a restaurant, stuff that has nothing to do with outside of wrestling, affected his career, which I think is totally bullshit. The guy's talented, great look, great on the mic, and his career was cut abruptly because of ignorance, I'll say, which is just heat.
That's a damn shame. And you look at the back in the day with WWE. I mean, Shawn Michaels, their top star, was a gigantic pain in the ass, and he's even said, "Yeah, I was a dick back in the day." But he was great, and Vince was willing to overlook that because he was great in the ring and drew money for him. And I feel like, and you look at real sports, and look, sometimes we get on certain teams, certain promotions that sign guys that may have a checkered past, or at the very least have a quote unquote attitude problem, character issues. But a lot of them tend to look at the talent. Why is wrestling all of a sudden, or I guess in the last decade or so, so hypersensitive when there are so many talented guys, and at the end of the day, it should be about the bottom line?
Say that one more time. I didn't hear you.
Okay, I was just saying with professional wrestling and with WWE, you're talking about Alex Riley. Why is wrestling so hypersensitive compared to other sports? I mean, look, I think, at times teams draft guys that maybe have checkered pasts. At the very least, some attitude problems. But at the very least, you have the people in charge looking at the talent and the bottom line of the talent. Why do you feel like WWE has been, for the last decade, has been so hypersensitive when they do have a lot of talent? And at the end of the day, it's really more cost effective to try to overlook all that other crap, outside of the ring.
You see, with wrestling, it goes far beyond talent. You can have everything, but it's all about how the politics backstage, and there's a lot of egos backstage, a lot of egos. And when they see someone with talent, there's a lot of politicking. They'll take you under your wing and then bury you 1 minute. That's exactly what I saw with Alex Riley. He was taken under the wing of a certain superstar, and then a couple of weeks later, he was on his shit list.
Yeah,
just like that.
Yeah, that's a shame. We had some questions submitted here by some fans. Now we got a few minutes left with you, man. You got some time for questions?
Yeah, of course.
All right. This one right here. In the late 2000s, 2010, 2011, you ended up changing your look. You ditched the jeans for red tights. What was the explanation for that?
That was me trying to do everything to get back on TV. I was trying everything from ideas to a new character to a new look. I was just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks.
Okay. Do you think WWE needs to evolve, given the portrayal of minorities, the divas, whether it be a Bulgarian playing a Russian, the divas having 2-minute matches when Ronda Rousey is drawing big for UFC, or the portrayal of the New Day and R-Truth? Do you think WWE is long overdue in evolving, and what do you think it will take for them to evolve creatively?
For them to evolve, I definitely believe that they should evolve, change their whole lineup up. For them to do that, I never put too much thought into it, so I couldn't even answer that.
Do you think there needs to be maybe more diversity as far as the creative team, as in people with different backgrounds, maybe some women on the creative team, just different voices to kind of change it up?
That's a good idea. We should add some more minorities in the with different backgrounds into the creative and writing team, because right now I think they're only getting one perspective.
Mm-hmm. This one's interesting. This one's about the E60 special, and I'll kind of rephrase this question from a fan. Actually, first off, did you watch the E60 special on WWE?
Watch the what special?
The ESPN special they did on NXT. They just aired, I think, on
Tuesday
Tuesday night.
No, I didn't watch it.
Okay, well, long story short, they essentially did a whole documentary-style thing on Corey Graves, Adam Rose, Xavier Woods, and I think Tyler Breeze. And Adam Rose, for those that don't know, has a child with a serious medical condition, and the guy behind Adam Rose, Ray LaPon, who plays the character, came off so great. And in that 1 hour on ESPN, he came off more real and more likable than he's ever been either in WWE or NXT. So to rephrase this question from a fan, are there instances that you've experienced in WWE where you feel like a person's real life story was more interesting than the character that was portrayed on TV?
I'm trying to think of some examples right now. Yeah, but sometimes the reality of a superstar is much more interesting, because fans can see right through a character and they don't believe it. Like for example, Tenzai. I love Albert. He's a cool guy, but fans saw right through that character, and they didn't buy it.
Mhm. Makes sense. Yeah, I wish they would have just brought him as Giant Bernard in Japan. He was killing it, and then they just brought him in. This is, I guess, Japanese tribute dude that didn't really talk and yeah, no background, and poor Sakamoto was just there, no explanation. Yeah.
Just threw him out there to the wolves.
Exactly. And fans remembered Albert, so they chanted at him. Okay, this one's interesting from George. Do you still love wrestling, JTG?
I definitely still love wrestling, but at the moment I'm not in love with it, and I have no desire on going back on the road full time. You know, I do take bookings every now and then with Shad, but as far as trying to get back on the main roster, absolutely not.
Okay, and before you were released, you were there around the time when the network launched, right? Or is my timeline incorrect?
Yeah, I wasn't there when the network
okay.
launched.
Okay, but from people you've talked to, how is it these days for guys? If you've talked to anybody, do you know how is it these days for guys in terms of the differences in pay-per-view payoffs and compensation, just given how the business model's changed?
I'm going to ask somebody that because I would love to know.
Okay.
But I have no idea.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, right here. Okay, we'll take. Actually, you know what? We'll give a shout out to this guy. There's a gentleman on Twitter with the Twitter handle at RSC6414 who I'm telling you is the world's, actually his Twitter handle is at 6414C. He is the world's biggest JTG fan. He changed his Twitter Avi, but he is a representative of the cult following you have, Mr. Paul. He really is. For the longest time, he would always tweet me during my shows, push JTG, to the point where his Facebook page and his Twitter profile had a picture of you with the world title around your waist. Do you want to say anything to RSC6414 on Twitter? Because he is the biggest JTG fan I know.
Well, I appreciate the love and support. I don't know if I'll ever get a world title, but I'll try to accomplish something better than that and give you a shout out.
All right, well, that's good then, and I guess that leads to my final question to you, JTG. What is next for you?
What is next for me? Well, I have a bunch of projects going on right now on top of the book. Some of them projects I can't really talk too much detail about. They just have to follow me on Twitter at JTG1284 and on Instagram at JTG121084. And I also have a movie coming out in July called Bad Night with these two YouTube stars. And I play one of the henchmen, one of the bad guys that's chasing them around town. Me and my other co-star, Eric Edelstein, who also is an actor out here. And we're chasing them around town, and it's a dark comedy. It reminds me of Superbad.
All right, actually, you know what? Bonus question before we go. More politics, wrestling or Hollywood?
I'll have to say wrestling.
Okay.
Definitely wrestling.
So do you feel like if you survived wrestling, you could survive anything?
Yes, I would like to definitely give a big shout out to WWE for preparing me for rejection. And when I go to all these auditions and I don't get called back, it kind of just water off my back. I was like, oh well. And I've been prepared for that, for being on the road and pitching ideas with with WWE.
Cool, man. Well, JTG, Jason Paul, I want to thank you so much for your time. Folks, if you want to buy his book, check it out. Damn, why did I write this book? You want the link, you want all the info, just follow him on Twitter at JTG1284. It's at JTG1284. JTG, thanks so much for your time, man.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.